welcome in a new feature here on Dom Time. Dom's weekly roundup will take pundits across the area, people with vast media experience. Some nights we'll have a couple of them in. Talk about the stories and how the media has covered them. If you have an observation, a gripe about the media, we'll let Dan Gross, our guest, handle all those and speak for the media. Call us at 866-472-8868. 866-472-8868 gets you to me. And Dan, seeing the coverage of the Gosnell crisis, now is that something you would have had any angle or anything that you'd be looking at toward that? And also, what do you think of the media coverage of this?
That's not something I really would have had anything to do with. A lot of the serious crime story would be handled by by the Daily News city desk. The only time I might have gotten involved would have been if he were on bail and he went out to dinner somewhere or went to a play or was spotted somewhere. We might have said embattled abortion doctor Kermit Gosnell had a strip steak.
Not a sighting, yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it would be kind of silly, but that's pretty much the only way I would have gotten involved.
Now,
with
I'm
that.
a big critic of the media coverage of this. I saw a stat today that Good Morning America, the 4.5 weeks or so of this trial, 5 weeks, has done 109 minutes on trials and not 1 second on Gosnell. Now, as a news person, does this have all the elements, even nationally? Is it of significance? Are there policy issues that I see here? Or is this just the pro-life side of me trying to glom onto that? That's where the fight is in the media.
It might be the pro-life side of you trying to glom onto it. I mean, it's definitely a huge story locally. This was a local doctor who was butchering people and killed at least one woman. In addition to
my comeback
to some
national
babies.
story, 17 years he went uninspected. How much of that goes on? Does it happen in other places? We're seeing some spasms of that.
I'm not sure if it goes on in other places. I mean, I remember the day that this story broke, and I think the Daily News had, I forget what the headline was, House of Horrors or something about his practice. At the time, I lived across from the Planned Parenthood on 12th Street, 12th and Locust, and there was a guy, there's always people protesting with, various things about God and, all kinds of photos of fetuses and whatnot. But the day that this broke, there's a guy holding up the paper, and I remembered actually engaging him at the time because he was trying to use this poor situation, with Dr. Gosnell, who obviously was not your typical abortion provider or typical OBGYN, who unfortunately had this travesty and awful situation. But this individual was holding up the paper, trying to make the link between that place, between Kermit Gosnell and Planned Parenthood. And I remember engaging him and saying, if abortion were safe and legal, and people weren't protesting places like this that provide lots of care to women, whether it's abortion or birth control or other kind of gynecological services, then you wouldn't have people going to these clowns and knuckleheads and monsters that are killing people. I mean, the less difficulty it is to get a safe and legal abortion that you have, the more safe it's going to be, and you're not going to have a situation like Gosnell. You're going to have people going to a hospital where a lot of times now it's getting harder to find an abortion because there's, whether it's insurance or whether it's religious beliefs of hospitals or the boards of hospitals or insurance companies, a lot of medical providers, my understanding is, are no longer providing this service. So it's getting to be, there's less places you can go to. And
all right, we'll cover it from that perspective then. I mean, if you want to cover the trial, I just think, to me, the media is in the tank here. I have to tell you pretty clearly on this. A lot of people tell me they're even afraid, if they're pro-life, to be out with that, to come out, and we'll get about other people coming out in the moment. But is that one of those things, I think, in the news media where you might be a bit suspect?
I still think it's a local story. I mean, I understand you're suggesting that it could have national implications, and people, if somebody wanted to, they certainly could write about how, policy could be changed, or kind of the issues that I was referring to about
the other side of it,
the less places that you have to get an abortion. Unfortunately, people are drawn to this kind of practice. But I also think deep down, it is a local story. I mean, if you take the issue of abortion away from it and look at it simply as a guy being tried for murder, we have that in Philadelphia 200 or 300 times a year, unfortunately.
All right, let's turn to his breaking story as we're on the air tonight. Jason Collins, who's been a journeyman, he's played in various places. First openly gay player I remember, though, at the pro level of any significance other than rumored, came out today. And now we have this guy, Broussard, who is the top basketball analyst for ESPN on really what I think is their journalist show, Outside the Lines, saying that this is a sin. He's an ordained minister. He's African-American, Broussard, and that NBA players are not going to accept this. So what were your rules as far as ever touching upon someone's private life, as far as particularly if they were gay?
I definitely had a rule where I wouldn't directly out someone in my column. I didn't feel like it was my place, but I also think a lot of that was based on the fact that I also didn't just assume that everybody was straight. So to me, it wasn't news to merely report that someone was gay. It would have been a story to me to say, you know, so-and-so has a new boyfriend, or so-and-so now is in a serious relationship with this other guy, and if you were able to identify the person and they wanted to talk about it and they were out and, you know, going out in public and together, then that would be one thing. But to merely say, you know, this guy on channel, this channel or that station or this sports team is gay, that wouldn't have been something that I usually would have reported. And obviously what happened in this situation was Collins, you know, was participating in the story with Sports Illustrated.
Exactly. So you would believe some players in the Philadelphia four sports teams now are gay, and if
they have to be.
What's so? Well, I don't know about that. Statistically, you just think, or
I think statistically, supposedly, you know, out of I've seen statistics that up to 40% of Americans are gay.
40%? Damn, wait a minute. Holy Toledo, that's breaking news here.
I think so. I don't know. There was a song that had lyrics like that.
Parting question, what would it be like in Philadelphia? Because you know the mores of the town, you've covered all this type of stuff. Do you think Philadelphia would be accepting of an openly gay pair? Would it depend upon if they won recently and how good he was?
I think that's exactly what it is. I mean, I think
tough town,
Philadelphia is a tough town, and it's also a fickle town when it comes to its athletes and their performance. And I think as long as the guy was playing well, he would probably be fine.
He's hitting 300, fine. He's under 250.
Right, then he's going to start hearing slurs.
All right, Dom's Weekly Roundup continues with Dan Gross. We'd love to get you in at 866-472-8868.